Hey, Inspired Tribe, my fellow freedom lovers, how's it going? Welcome. We're excited that you're here. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's Jean Nolan here. Just wait for a few people to jump on here. There you go. It's a little better. I hope you're having a great day. Actually, I put this here. Here you go. So people say, where's the hat? Where's the white hat? Here we are. Inspired Tribe. We're healthy, we're wealthy, we're whole, we're free. That's been the mantra for almost 3 years in the Inspired live streams. And as always, we love to peel the onion. People often ask about, where this journey began, why we talk about the things we talk. And somebody said so beautifully the other day in a comment, said, man, you guys are just a truth channel. And yeah, that's what it's really about. Truth exploration. That's really what it's all about. Hey, Johnny, how's it going, my friend? Anna, good to see you. Clover Wise. Calbo from the UK. Essie, good to see you all. Yeah, let us know in the comments. We're going to talk about the biggest, and this is not an exaggeration, this is the biggest conspiracy out there. It's by far the biggest. It's the only one that really matters. It's the one that every other conspiracy is based on. And that's what we're going to talk about. Elizabeth, good to see you. James, Jean K or Jean K, I don't know. Depends on if, Silent Cash Cow. I wonder what that name means. Frederick, good to see you. Margaret from the Netherlands. Village Witch, Dragons Guardian, Crystal Hearts, good to see you. Mick E, Ricky. We got Texas Girl. Howdy, Texas Girl. All my exes live in Texas. Okay, we got Melly B, 007 Bond, Jane Harris, Marcus, good to see you. Janice. All righty. Well, let's dive into it. What is the biggest conspiracy of all time? It's not an exaggeration. I wouldn't say it. But I want to begin with a quick story. For those of you who have bigger dogs, or if you have a dog like a retriever or a lab, dogs that were bred for a certain reason, and with a purpose in mind. If you then train your dog, one of the things with a bigger dog that you always want to do is whenever the dog has something in their mouth, whether that's a toy or something else, you don't want to yank it. And the reason why you don't want to yank it is because the dog, especially if it's a retriever or a lab, which you train to retrieve the prey, whatever usually it's birds, it's bird hunting. That's what retrievers were bred for. So they would retrieve the bird once it was shot. And of course, you didn't want them to bite real hard, but have a very soft bite. So they would bring it back and then you could get it. And so if you train that dog, you don't want to yank it hard out of their mouth, because what the dog's going to do, it's going to bite harder, and the dog is stronger. The dog's mouth is stronger than your arms. But what happens in that moment is that the dog begins to realize how strong it really is. And once that realization happens, you're going to have a much harder time to train the dog for your purposes. I'm not even talking here about the kind of training or how we do things. I'm just talking about this is the process. So there's a thought process that goes into, you never want your dog, if you're going to train him for this purpose, to realize how strong it really is, because otherwise it's not going to fulfill its purpose in the mission that you want to have for it. And the reason why I'm sharing this story is because those entities and powers who are manipulating world events and who have been manipulating world events for a very, very long time, the biggest conspiracy was to make us first forget how powerful we are, and then make sure we never really realize it again. Because once we realize how strong we truly are and how able we are and what our intrinsic given capabilities are, we could never, ever be controlled again. I chose the thumbnail for this live stream for a purpose. That levitating little Buddhist soon to be monk, or maybe monk. I mean, it's levitating. This is whether this particular photo was photoshopped or not doesn't matter. These are normal things in certain areas of the world. These are normal occurrences in certain bodies of teachings. If you grow up as a Buddhist monk, if you grow up as a Shaolin, for example, it's quite amazing what they're capable of. And what our world does, what the mainstream does, what this dark cabal does, when that comes to the public and when that begins to penetrate the public's mind, they put a big stamp on it that's called miraculous, magical, supernatural. And what does that do? Those labels disconnect us from believing that this is a possibility for us. It makes us think that certain things that happen and certain abilities that we see in other brothers and sisters are a freak of nature, supernatural, a genetic anomaly, a miracle, even healing when it happens, right? I mean, what will doctors say when you go any alternative route? You have a tumor, you take an alternative route, you don't go with the money medicine, and you come back in later and the tumor's gone or shrunk or whatever, and the doctor says, well, that's what do they call? They have a name for it. It's you let me know in the comments. I forget what the name is. There's a instant something. See, it's so stupid I can't even think of it. But they just put like a stamp. That's a phenomenon. You can't count on that. You can't produce that. That just happens with some people. And instant remission. I don't know exactly, but it doesn't matter. The point is that now more and more and more people are coming out who are teaching others to be miraculous. Of course, miraculous is not really the right word. What we are beginning to learn again is how truly powerful we are. And the reason why this is becoming so important now is because we're at the precipice. We're at this huge juncture in our journey where these powers are they're circling in. They're going harder. They are creating more chaos, and they can only do it because we believe we're powerless. They can only do it because we believe there's not much we can do. We're just little beings here that don't have a lot of ability, and one person can't do a whole lot. And I'll point to someone who's been quite influential on us, Wim Hof, for example. Wim Hof, the Iceman. That dude's been around now for 30 years, and in the public eye, especially in the last 5-6 years, he's really exploded, which is amazing. But he went on and he did all these records, for staying staying in an ice cube, for staying immersed in cold water for extended periods of time, for being able to not breathe for God knows how long, for being able to, in his bare feet, climb Mount Everest. I mean, he just, whether that's heat, ran a marathon in a desert, no drinking in between, all of that stuff. And of course, what medicine did, or what mainstream science did, was like, oh yeah, that dude's like a freak of nature anomaly, whatever, cool, but let's move on. And then Wim did something amazing. He said, no, I am going to teach people exactly how to do what I do. And I'm going to put no limitation on it. It doesn't matter if you're young, old, a man, a woman. It does not matter what your background is. I'm going to teach you how to do it. So he then went on and got, in a clinical environment. He said, I'm not just going to do that. I'm going to invite doctors and scientists in. Let them measure it with their instruments. Let them see it from a scientific standpoint. We went into the hospital and he said, okay, inject me with E. coli, right? Hooked up to all the machines, inject me with E. coli. And he, just by using his breathing technique, could absolutely defend himself against this bacteria, had no symptoms, was totally fine. And then they said again, well, Wim, you're a freak of nature. We don't know how you do it, but well, whatever, move on. No, what Wim said is, no, now I'm going to bring in over, I think within a week or less than a week, he trained a group of people that were previously untrained how to do it. They did the same thing, repeated the experiment, exact same outcome. Okay? So within a few days, he taught a random group of people how to fend off E. coli, which can be a huge problem, right? So then he goes on and shows this to the world. He goes on and works with universities, works with doctors, works with scientists to show them that these are not miracles, that this is not magic, this is not supernatural, he's not a freak of nature. He's beginning to show to the world at large that this is within all of us. We have these capabilities. The biggest conspiracy ever created was to make us forget who we truly are and what we are really capable of. It's not the Federal Reserve System. It's not all the other stuff came after that. First, so in order to get mankind to believe the crap at large we believe today, to get so limited, to get so boxed in, to make ourselves so small, you had to first make us forget what we're capable of. You have to first make us believe we're insignificant, and then you can do all the rest. And it had worked for a long time, through trauma, torture, warfare, killings, book burnings, the complete destruction of knowledge, wisdom. They went through they went to all lengths to do that. I just talked about it on a quick audio that earlier. Most of the wars in the Middle East, yes, they took the resources. Yes, they went in and bombed the shit out of, but that wasn't really what the wars were about. That was just one avenue. What they usually first do is they go into the national archives, the museums, the art places, into the sacred places of that country, and they destroy and loot and steal everything, because this would show, if you go into the Middle East, you're going to Libya, Iraq, Iran, all these countries. This is the epicenter of past civilizations. You would see how tremendously amazing we already were and what capabilities we had. Of course, that's what they're mainly doing there and hiding. This is really a fight and a war for knowledge and for wisdom and regaining that. That's why they go and destroy indigenous cultures and destroy indigenous traditions, ceremony, languages, religion, everything, because there we can find so much of that. They've done it to our American Indian brothers and sisters here to a huge extent. Laura, thank you so much. Really, really appreciate it. A beautiful statement here. Raw milk is very essential to providing antibodies to help us fight disease. Beautiful. Raw milk. In many states, coincidentally, raw milk, by the way, is they're not allowed to sell it, but most states, here's a workaround. You can buy a cow from a farmer, and then he milks the raw milk for you every week. That's a beautiful way to do it. But I digress. Thank you, though, for the contribution. We really appreciate it. So the biggest conspiracy is that. And today, thankfully, many teachers are coming out and are in their own way, in their own little niche, are teaching people what that really means. And there's a few things that we're doing and we have been doing that continually reconnects us with our true knowledge and with our true capabilities. And one of the things, I always say this, I mean, I'm like a broken record here, but I love it. One of the things is the journey within. It's what I call meditation or prayer, simply because all these powers are truly within. When a mother, I mean, this has been shown over and over again, when a baby or a child is in danger, especially the mother rises to the occasion in ways she didn't believe she was able to before whatever happened. I mean, that's how mothers were able to lift cars off the ground. It's not logical. It's not explainable by pure physics and muscle mass. It has nothing to do with it. It is the sheer tapping into possibilities and capabilities because of necessity in that moment, because it's so important to save that child. Also, motherly intuition is one of those capabilities. Dr. Andy Kaufman, whom we interviewed here, he is, he's the director of the movie Vaxxed, and he's been big in that movement if you don't know him. But he shares a beautiful story often about motherly intuition. Another thing that people think is supernatural. No, it's not. It's the most natural thing. He said they were on vacation, and him and his wife were in a room, and he said all of a sudden his wife jumps up. She runs down the stairs, runs across a courtyard, jumps into a pool and pulls out, I believe it was their young daughter, very young daughter, toddler. And he said she hadn't screamed. She didn't have a view of the pool from where she was. I think someone else would have been supposed to watch. I don't know what that story was, but at any rate, she knew, she felt it, she acted on it, and saved the daughter. So often we hear these stories. People that live without having to eat. We know personally, firsthand, people that live like that, don't even have to drink. And of course, in our culture, this is believed to be so crazy, right? So crazy that people can believe it because we've all been taught there's only, so long you can go without food and only so long you can go without water. Well, our science is based on the belief that there was a big bang, and then magically molecules put themselves together in miraculous ways, and eventually we have this great abundance of species and all that. Of course, the fairy tale of the Big Bang. But when you believe the fairy tale of the Big Bang, then all the rest, of course, doesn't make sense that I'm talking about. But it does exist actually in the Eastern cultures. If you go to India and these places, and I think it's becoming less common now, but it's very much part of their culture. The knowing, the yogis, the sannyasins, the enlightened masters, and what they're able to do. It's very much clear that levitation, it's not a big deal. There are people, they can sit in the fire and become one with the element and not have burns or anything. People that can dissolve and put themselves together, teleportation, portal themselves into a different place, telekinesis. All these things are actually abilities we all have. It's quite amazing. So for me, when I hear people say that's a miracle, supernatural, I think, geez, they're so clever with that. They put that stamp on things so people think, oh, I can't do this. I couldn't possibly heal from anything. I couldn't possibly, become whole. I couldn't possibly be vital. I couldn't possibly live past 85 or 90, when people live past that age all the time. All these limitations have been put into us, and that is the biggest conspiracy of all time, literally of all time. Because that one, if we reverse that and remember who we truly are, all the rest falls away. None of the other conspiracies are possible. None of the other control mechanisms work. So one of the things we do constantly is breath work and meditation. And forget the word meditation and this big thing. Oh, you need to be in a lotus position and everything needs to be just right. And if you don't get your foot up on your thigh and your other foot up on the other thigh, and if you aren't able to do these things and stop your mind from thinking and go into the gap and have a beautiful, enlightening experience every time you close your eyes, then you're not meditating. It's exhausting just saying these things. And I would encourage everyone to simply start with a comfortable place for you, whether that's out in nature, underneath a tree, or your favorite chair. Just sit comfortably in a position where you won't fall asleep. And begin by breathing deeply for a minute. Breathing deeply for a minute. And then after a minute or a minute and a half, exhale and just be for a while. Don't breathe. Just notice how air flows through your body. Just notice how you're being oxygenated, how your blood is rushing, and just feel the sensations. And repeat this a couple of times. And then maybe after 3-4 rounds of doing that, and you can use, Wim Hof has got beautiful videos on YouTube where you can breathe with him, very simple instructions. And then just segue into a space of calmness for 10, 5, 15, 20 minutes, however long, 2 minutes, whatever. And just begin exploring the inner world. What is happening outside of your senses? Our senses are programmed into the matrix. They are programmed into the perception. They are very limited. They have literally been programmed. So all the great stuff happens beyond our senses. That's where we have to move. And so the journey goes within the seventh direction, right? And when that begins to happen, it can take a few months, it can take a year, it doesn't matter. I mean, what's the rush? You begin to explore new things about yourself, about your abilities. Ideas come up. One thing leads to another. Healing that needs to take place will present itself to you. Opportunities to heal. Old emotions, stored trauma will come up. When you tap into this space, it is naturally harmonizing. It wants to harmonize itself. You are tapping into the divine order of things, and it begins to put itself together. Then, as I said, breathing meditation. A beautiful thing for us has always been scripting. Scripting in terms of when I come out of this beautiful state, I put words on paper that reflect the state. And it has to be flowy and naturally. As soon as I start thinking, I stop. As soon as I start putting some limitations, I stop. As soon as I start being negative, I stop. That's another thing you can do. And then when you tap into that more often, follow your bliss, which means you will get instructions. You will get instructions. Most people ignore them because the instructions are so often illogical. The instructions so often don't seem to match up with your own ideas of how things should be. And those instructions, we encourage you to follow. Listen to your real divine guidance and intuition. And then opportunities do present themselves to learn certain things. The things you need the most are the things that will present themselves to you, which wants me, this makes me want to repeat the 4 beautiful spiritual laws. I can say them to you in 30 seconds, and you can study them for a lifetime and try to debunk them like I have, and it doesn't work. But the laws are, whomever you encounter is the right person. Whomever you encounter is the right person. Whatever happens is the only thing that could have happened. That's number 2. So once again, number 1, whomever you encounter is the right person. Whatever happens is the only thing that could have happened. Number 3, whenever something begins, it's the right time. Number 4, when something is over, it's over. Boom, the 4 laws. So once again, whomever you encounter is the right person. Whatever happens is the only thing that could have happened. Whenever something begins, it's the right time. And when something is over, it's over. Now, this collides extremely with our Western way of thinking about things, with our coulda, woulda, shoulda. But actually, there is divine logic in all of these laws. You can try a lifetime to debunk them, or you can accept the beauty of the deep truths of these laws. The beauty of the deep truths. You can meditate on these laws for a lifetime and explore the depths of the meaning of this. Very, very important. So this is, at the same time as we're exploring forever, we're realizing now what the real conspiracies are, and we can begin to tap into our true power. I encourage you to do that. Look for these things. Thank you so much. Joshua says, thank you for your contribution. Joshua says, I resonate. Let me see if I can scroll this here. I resonate with this. Been dreaming of levitation intensely for a few years now. I know that we're all capable of this. It begins in your gut, combined with the breath and deep gratitude, moving the energy. Yes, beautifully. And let me just share one quick success story for me. Beautiful. A few years ago, I don't know how many years ago, I started regularly breathing. Wim Hof style, deep breath and really conscious breath movements. And then there's other techniques that I started to implement, which are beautiful. When you count, when you move in, and then you count when you're without breath, and then you count when you breathe out. And it's just one of the Kundalini techniques. But when I started doing the Wim Hof, I could go, after doing a few rounds of intense breathing, I could go for a minute and 20 seconds, 25 seconds without breath, without air in my lungs being oxygenated. Within a few short months, I was up to 3 minutes. 3 minutes. I mean, it was pretty amazing for me because it was nothing I even aspired to. I just wanted to feel the breath of life and started doing it more often. And I believe if I would put my mind to it, if this became something that was important to me, like, I might go into free diving, and it will be, I could go up to 4 or 5 minutes like that. And that's not supernatural. It isn't something that I'm genetically destined to do. It's just something I'm tapping into my true power. So I encourage you to do that. Breathing, highly important. Go to Wim Hof's YouTube channel. He's got a plethora of great videos, and start with that journey. But mainly, every day, open up your mind and your heart a little bit more to the possibility of being infinite possibility. Open yourself up to the possibility of being infinite possibility. And I believe This is the revolution we're all working on. And you know, I know there's a lot of things to pay attention to in the physical world, but we gotta be able to walk and chew gum at the same time here. We gotta be able to transcend those limitations and first and foremost evolve on this level, just remembering who we truly are and what we're capable of. All right, Inspired Tribe, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for being with us. We love you. We appreciate you. And hold on, I missed another contribution here. Lucas LeMay, thank you so much. Now I see it. Thank you all for your contributions. We really appreciate you. We love you, and we'll be back with you again very, very soon.